Well, good morning. It's Saturday morning. It's time for 10 with Tom on this Saturday morning, and we're glad you've joined us. And a lot of things that we want to cover today, and so let's get started. First of all, just a reminder to everybody that we've got our Zoom meeting tonight at 5 o'clock, and so hope you've made arrangements to put that time away and be able to join us for that. And Kate will be putting all that together for us, and so should be a good time tonight at 5. Also wanted to let everybody know that there won't be a 10 with Tom tomorrow. Tomorrow is our day of worship, and so we encourage you to join us for worship online at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll be sending out a Sunday school lesson. If you want to go through Sunday school at 9 o'clock and look where we're at in Bible study during the Sermon on the Mount, you can do that. And also want to tell you about something new. Our friends at CPYU have put together a 28-day devotional that is set to begin tomorrow night. It's something for the whole family to be able to do around the dinner table. And so we encourage you to be a part of that. We're going to be sending those out sometime this evening. And each night you will get one for the next night. And over the next 28 days we'll be covering a number of different subjects. And it'll give us some things that we can talk about when we're together online. And so I hope you all be a part of that. So you can do that as a family. And so start looking for that in your inbox tonight. Also, I want to let everybody know that Family Feud continues. Today we're on to round 6. Who knew it was going to go that long, but the competition is getting more and more intense. If we finish today, then that means Fast Money is tomorrow. And Fast Money will pop up throughout the day. There'll be 5 questions, and we'll take the top 2 answers for each one to see if, as a group, we can come up with 200 points. If we have to go to round 7 tomorrow, that'll happen as well. But because we normally go at 10 o'clock and worship starts at 10, you won't get a Family Feud question at 10. You'll have to look for it some other time during the day. So be on the lookout as we continue to play Family Feud. But today's question goes on at 10 o'clock. Excuse me. The last thing we want to do before we get started this morning is our daily question. And our daily question is a little thing that you can do on video and post your answer for us so we can see who the winner is. But who can say the alphabet backwards the fastest? And so you might want to practice that a little bit before you get your phones and cameras out. But record yourself doing that, and we'll see who can do that the fastest and have some fun with that. So that's our challenge for today. Now, yesterday when we closed, we were wrapping up our story about Psalm 37:4 and how God, as we're following Him, will give us the desires of our hearts. And you saw that play out in my own life. But I mentioned that there was still one missing piece in my life at the end of that story. And so we're going to go back to where I was coaching at that small school that I was telling you about that came about as a prayer requested youth group. And I began getting ready for season 2. We were practicing, and we seemed to have a good group of guys together that we were going to have a good season. And then right before the season was to begin, report cards came out. That wasn't so good. When report cards came out, we were left with just 4 players. And you can't play a basketball season with 4 players. So the principal canceled the season. That was it. So now I had some free time on my hands. And when I got back to the church, they were asking about basketball. And I said, well, we're done for the year because everybody flunked off. And the pastor's wife happened to be there, and she heard what was going on. And she said, well, we still need somebody at our school to coach. And so she said to her husband, do you think Tom could come over? And he says, well, I'll ask him. And so I went over to their school. And when it was a school that was in a church that I had gone to when I was a senior in high school, so I was familiar with some of the people that were already there. And so I started coaching there. Well, as I got ready for the following school year, they'd asked me to coach soccer as well. And the principal said, hey, are you available to come to orientation? We want to be able to introduce you to all the parents that are going to be there for the new school year. And it'll only take about an hour or so. I said, sure. And so I went to orientation and learned about what was going to happen with the school year at this big assembly. And it was in a sanctuary, which also doubled as the school cafeteria. It was also the school gymnasium, so it was really a multi-use room. But it was about 4 times the size of our current sanctuary at the village church. And so I was seated all the way off to the left side of the room in the front row. And I was spending a lot of time doodling on a notebook, and she began to introduce all the teachers. And as she's going through them, I knew them all, so I really wasn't paying much attention at all. And so, of course, then they introduced me, and I stood up, I waved, and sat back down and started doodling some more. And then she got to the end. She said, and we have a new teacher this year. And she said, her name is Miss, and that's all I heard. I never heard her name, but when I heard Miss, I stopped doodling. I turned my head, I looked across the room, and she was on the far opposite end of the room. And I looked at her and I said, you know, I could marry her. And I went right back to doodling. Now, to give you a little bit more background on the story, shortly before that, I was doing my devotions and I was in Genesis, reading from chapter 24, where Abraham is looking for a wife for his son Isaac. And he's about to send a servant out on the hunt. And he says to the servant, starting at verse 3, I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I am living. But you will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac. And when I read that, I started laughing. And it's like, well, if I'm ever going to get married, my wife's going to have to come from Butler, Pennsylvania. But just recently, I'd finally given up on the idea that I was ever going to get married. I was in my 30s, I was happily single, and realized that's probably how I'm going to end up as I continue to serve the Lord. Who's going to want to marry somebody who's hanging out with teenagers all the time anyway? So, as fate would have it, or as the Lord was orchestrating, I started coaching, and my office with all the equipment was right across the hall from her classroom, so we started saying hi. And the kids were picking up on the fact that I was single, she was single, and so they start trying to fix us up. The phys ed teacher's trying to fix us up. The principal's trying to fix us up. And so basically every day we would go to school, we would have to answer to all these people, hey, did you ask her out yet? And she would have to say, you know, they'd say, hey, did he ask you out yet? And so finally, I asked her to go to dinner and a movie, and basically just so we could get everybody off our back. And so we went and had dinner. We went to a movie. We got caught in a blizzard. We got stuck in a restaurant until 3:30 in the morning. And I thought, oh man, this was a disaster. But when I got home, went to bed. The next morning I got up, and my mom said to me, last night you went out with the girl that you're going to marry. And I just kind of shrugged it off and laughed. 6 weeks later, my mom was gone. And she never met Deb. Spoke to her one time on the phone. But she just knew somehow that that's what was going to happen. Well, Deb and I, that was like the least thing on our minds. We continued to go out just as friends. We got to know each other. And as our relationship grew and grew and grew, it was a wonderful thing to see happen, how God was putting us all together. But then I come to find out that she's living in Butler. That was where her parents were. And so I was like, wait a minute, that's what I was reading about in Genesis. What's the chances of that? And I find out that she went to high school with my cousin. And then her family started going to a different church, and they ended up at the church where my aunt and uncle and cousins were all going to church. And I'm starting to see this whole thing start to fit together. And I'm like, oh God, you're way too cool. And so on a June day in 1995, she and I were married. And you see people post these things about, you know, if you got married where you met your spouse, where would you have gotten married? And you see all kind of funny things, a lot of them in bars or at, you know, different events. For us, we actually did that. We got married in the room where we met. And we had a really big wedding, and it was a really cool thing. But to see how God orchestrated all that and gave, again, me the desire of my heart. And I couldn't have been better matched with Deb. She is amazing. I love her. It's been 25 wonderful years, and we are looking forward to the future as well. But God is just way too cool. So I want to encourage you with that, you know, we don't know how things are going to work out coming up, but we do know that God loves us, that God cares for us, that God's got a plan for each one of us, and God is working even where we don't see that. We don't know what the next step is. We don't know how long we're going to be stuck in all this, but God does. So keep your eyes on Him, stay focused in His Word, and watch what He does. And it might take years to finally see how it all worked together, but know that God is working. So go out, have a great weekend. We hope to see you tonight or tomorrow. But whatever it is, stay close to God this weekend. Know that we love you, and have a great day. Bye-bye.